We have about 5 minutes left for some questions, and I see that Alan Berger has waited very patiently. He raised his hand a long time ago. Alan typically has questions for both authors, and I'm hoping that that's the case this time as well. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Always the case. And by the way, this was a really tremendous session. I enjoyed both papers and both discussions. You all did a very good job. So let me start with Carlos. I have a couple of suggestions. I think your paper is very good. It could be more complete. And let me make a few suggestions for you to complete that. One is that you find that the that the threshold resulted in some of the banks making fewer LMI loans, which is very interesting because, of course, the purpose of CRA is to make more of those loans. I would encourage you to try and quantify, let's say, for the banks between 200 million and 300 million, does the CRA on net result in more or less? You can do a quick quantitative analysis and see, does it look like it increases or decreases LMI on net? And that would be a very, very interesting result. Second one, and I saw in the chat, John Hackney mentioned, I think it'd be a great idea to also do the next change in the size threshold in 2005 would be a good idea. And my last suggestion for you is, I mean, we have essentially a criticism of policy of setting thresholds. Why don't you go ahead and suggest what the government should do? What should they do? Should they make a continuous thing? You know, there's kind of an obligation on you when you criticize a policy. You know, suggest something else. Just like I hate a referee who tells me I don't like this thing, and then doesn't give me any suggestions. So that's what I think you should do with the government. Give them a good referee report and tell them what they should be doing. For Tatjana, a great paper, really, really complete. I'm not going to tell you to make it more complete. No way in the world. It's got so many contributions there. This is actually my third time hearing the paper. Manju presented once. I heard it, and I heard you present it. So I made some suggestions in the past. So let me say what you might do in future research. So I think Krista hit the nail on the head there, is that it's actually most of the PPP is actually the bank's decision. It's more the bank's decision. It was set up that way. The small business applied to banks. Banks can say yes or no. We don't even like you. You don't have a relationship. We're rejecting you. And then the banks apply to the SBA for the money. And so they're really in the driver's seat. And we see, Chris already tooted my own horn and said, pay attention to these political connections. But I think in a future paper, that would be an excellent suggestion. Let's see, and maybe we can get together on this, maybe, or something, or you could do it. On the political connections, what did those do? What was the hesitancy related to that? And I think we also found in our paper, it's like the political connections. The small business also had their own political connections. Did that make a difference? I think there's plenty more research to be done on the PPP, and you could participate in that as well. So let me leave it at that, and thank you very much.
Tatjana, do you want to very briefly respond, and then I'll give Carlos the opportunity to respond as well, because I don't see any additional questions here. And Tatjana, maybe there was a question in the chat as well, and you said, hey, I can give a better answer in person. So if you could just take like a minute or so, because we don't have much time.
Thank you, Krista. Yes, thank you, Alan, so much for your kind words about the paper and your suggestions. We'll definitely take them on board, thinking about for future projects on the PPP and in banking more generally. We co-author with Alan on another project, and happy to also bounce back ideas with you in the future, Alan. Very great co-author. I highly recommend. The question in the chat box was about the PPPFL. There is some research suggesting that some smallest banks lack liquidity coming into the PPP, which was rectified by PPPFL. What we find in our paper is that small and big banks behave differently, even within the subsample of banks with prior bank relationships. And also, in our paper, we currently have one robustness check in which we shrink small bank capacity in a manner that creates equivalence between the proportion of PBB clients that big and small banks served earlier, and all our results go through in the paper. So any liquidity concerns are valid, definitely, but they do not in any way overturn the results in the paper. Let me know if you have more questions. I plan to attend this reception at 4 p.m. I'm happy to chat about the paper. Thank you so much.
Okay, Carlos, do you want to say a few words?
Sure. So thank you so much, Krista, for a very thoughtful discussion. I mean, those are great points. Let me just quickly point out that our results are robust to the definition of the control group, but those results are not in the current draft, and so they have to be there, and so they will be there in the next version. But also your comments of the non substitution effect, I think that also we're going to discuss that in the paper. So thank you so much. And Alan, yeah, great suggestions. And actually, the first one, the qualifying, like banks below this is 250. What was like some kind of back of the envelope calculation? How the affected LMI loans? Actually, we're doing it now, hopefully for the next version. And fair points in particular. What should the government do? Well, yeah, we have some thoughts. I don't know if they should be included in the paper, but we'll see. Thank you so much.
Maybe there could be some kind of continuous threshold, so you have a little bit more responsibility as you get a little bit larger to kind of avoid some of these going off a cliff effects. Is essentially what I would do if I were you.
Right. Thank you so much.
And that applies also, with Krista's thing on the other thresholds. I think that would also be a good suggestion. That kind of in that research generally about thresholds, I think it's a good idea to tell the government what to do.
Yes, no, I agree, and not having these explicit size thresholds, because there's just so many evidence out there now that indeed these size thresholds, that they distort behavior. If you have more continuous size thresholds or more continuous increases in oversight, then you won't get this strange behavior around these size thresholds. So I think that would indeed be optimal.